G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the round 16 review. As you can tell from the intro, it was a really rough start to the round for me. Given the events of this week, I now have to alter some of my future trade plans, which is a little bit frustrating. Was hoping on having a little bit more cover on my bench, but I think that I'll have to give that up in order to make my final upgrade to complete my side this week. So that's a positive, I suppose. That's exciting that I'll have a full premium side. Hopefully, fingers crossed, unless there's any carnage during the week this round. So looking forward to that. But it was a week where I didn't watch much football. Given the fact it was such a rough start to the round, I thought to myself, look, it's probably one of those weeks where I should just tune out a little bit, give SuperCoach and AFL in general just a little bit of a break and focus on some other things. So I got some schoolwork done that I needed to prepare for next term, which was always handy. So I didn't watch a heap of football this week, but for my side anyway, 24-22, it was the fourth time this season that I've actually gone backwards in the ranks. So that's certainly disappointing. There were some massive scores this week. Shout out to Arthur, black and white. I was playing Arthur in a cash league match, head-to-head match, and he got a 27 odd. I'll have to work out what that exact score was, Arthur, but congratulations, mate. Absolutely tore me to shreds and gave my percentage a little bit of a hiding as well, which wasn't terrific for me, mate. So congrats on that massive score. But yeah, for me now, season rank is right on 400. So my aim has been for the last couple of weeks just to maintain hopefully that rank that I had around the 325 mark. But I think now if I can stay inside the top 500, that'd be really fantastic as an end rank for the season, because it's really tough when you don't have players like your Parrish, your Steels, players like Tuke Miller, Lyons, Bond, all those big guns in the midfield. I think that's what I'm really lacking, and maybe a couple of fake primos. Looking at you, Cole Langford, but we'll get into it anyway, guys. Hope that you had an awesome round. Let's see how the team's going. Now, as we know, footy's a team sport, and for DR's Rusty Spoons this week, it really was left to some individual brilliance to get me just a subpar score. But in the back line, Tommy Stewart, he really bounced back. I said it last week, we won't see another game like that from Tommy. What was it, about a 53, I think, at the end of the day? Things just didn't go well, but I'm pretty sure at quarter time in this match, he was close to scoring what he did last week. That suggests he may have tapered off towards the end of the game there, but 100 plus from a defender, I'll take, I think, at this stage. Lockie Whitfield, an 81. Disappointing again, because I thought that his floor may be about a 90 from here on to the end of the season, but just didn't seem to get involved, and hopefully he'll go 100 plus and bounce back for us next week. The Seagull, a little bit concerning that he had low time on ground. I think it was about in the 60s. So what does that suggest? He did have a knock a couple of weeks ago. Does that mean he's still carrying a little bit of that soreness? I'm not too sure, but given the fact he did have that really low time on ground, the fact that he still went a 90 plus, I'll take that every day of the week. But hopefully moving forward, yeah, we can see a more consistent 100 plus from Seagull. Not sure if he saw or not. I don't know what the reason for that time on ground was. Stephen May, he's been an absolute brick in defence. When I say a brick, I just mean rock solid. He hasn't been giving us bricks. Last month, he's gone 100 plus each and every match. And finally, this investment is starting to pay off. And I think that he's got a really, really good chance to be a top 8 defender from here on out. We were a little bit worried about him about 5 weeks ago when he went, I think, a 70-something, a 90, another 70-something. And I thought, oh, maybe I've just gone too cheap here and I should have invested in a more reliable option. But he's really, really proved to me that he can be a reliable scorer. Won't repeat myself each and every week, but we know how many kick-ins he takes. Intercept marks galore. Uses the ball really well. Love the Stephen May pick. Jordan Ridley, love this pick as well. Look, I thought I've got really unlucky with him. He's not going to return to the form that we saw earlier on the season. And even though it's 109, that form, isn't exact. Well, not the form, the score isn't what we saw at the start of the season. We're getting, those 130 plus type games, but the role is back for Jordan Ridley. The form is there, albeit, it's a 110 range, not that 125 plus range that I wanted to see when I invested in him. But this is not the disaster pick that I thought it was going to be. He's really, really bounced back, and I think a big reason why Essendon are looking on the up. Love the Jordan Ridley selection at this stage. If you don't have him at under 500k, I think he's going to be a really, really good option. Unfortunately, Jaden Shaw, He's been, as we said each and every week, again, an absolute roller coaster. I think the only positive for this pick at this stage is the fact that Bash has gone down. So that should deliver him at least another 10 plus points per game, I think anyway, I predict. But Richmond as a team, they're on the down slide at the moment. They're just not looking like the Tigers of old. And, when you got Jaden Short scoring 65, you can't complain too much when you got the Dusties of the world, a superstar of the competition who you see in the forward line going around the 80s. You can't expect too much from the Tigers at the moment. So I'd love to get out of this pick if I could. 477,000, if you've got a few trades up your sleeve, I'd certainly look to do it if you've got that luxury, but I certainly don't. Just need to stick with Shorty, and hopefully that, given the fact that Bash is out, that spikes his average up just a little bit for us. Bianco, 58 on the bench. That's handy. Briggsy did not play. Expected that with Mummy coming back into the side. But does he come in maybe for Flynn, who had a bit of an off game? It's a possibility because he had a really nice VFL game. I know that anyway. Jack McRae, he was my captain this week. So I think he's probably the safest captain option that we have in the game. Apart from someone like a Bond, it was the first time we've seen him go down in a long time. And maybe a Darcy Parish, you just chuck it on him each and every week if you've got him. But 138 after, was it 138 last week? He was in the 130s anyway. That's just fantastic form. And he is now the number one overall point scorer in our midfields. He's actually gone past Bontempelli after his poor week. So love the Jack McRae selection. If you don't have him and you are looking for that final upgrade, he is much cheaper than the Bont and the Parish at the moment. So I'd think that he'd probably be that next best option that you could look to get in. Laird, Ruck to have him, 129. We've all got him. A little bit controversial that I've ended up keeping him in my midfield. If I did have that extra luxury trade that I didn't have to spend on Impey, the move was to get Laird back into that defensive line and to bring Short into that midfield and trade him up to one of those Uber premiums. But won't have the luxury now, but having Rory Laird in the midfield with the scores that he's delivering at this stage anyway isn't the worst thing in the world. He's better than some of those other speculative picks that we could have at M8, I think. Clary, man, this is disappointing. I just didn't see this coming. We saw that 200 spiked all the way up to about 700k mark. People traded him out, and that's a move that I did suggest in my buy strategy video I put out earlier on the season, is that if you've got one of these blokes that is absolutely maxed out in price, you could get rid of him if they've got a bad buy. So if you did make that move, I think it was the right one with Clary, but there was no way that I was going to do that at the end of the day. He was just playing too well. I selected him from the start. He's one of those players that I thought was basically a lock for a top three. At this stage, I think he's sitting about 6th overall for points in the midfield. So a little bit disappointing. Terrible last month or 3 weeks has it been from him. I just need this man to bounce back in a big way. He's a pretty popular selection, I think, in about the 30-odd% mark. So lots of us are dealing with Oliver at the moment, but unfortunately, he's just not looking like a captaincy option, which is really disappointing. He's one of those blokes that I thought I could include in that loop each week. At this stage, I don't think that we can. Zeret, well, he used to be the shining light down there at Essendon, didn't he? And if you had have asked me who the highest averaging player for Essendon would be on any line this year, I would have said Zach Merritt. I would have put everything I own on it, my house. I was going to say my kids, better not say that, but everything I own, I would have put on it. But no way. Darcy Parish is an absolute freight train at the moment, and you won't see too many better games this season than what we saw from Darcy Parish. So Zerett's still with a 107. You can stomach that, but when you're seeing Darcy Parish do what he does, he's just putting Merritt to shame at this stage. But 112 on the season, that's okay. But it's hard to watch this other man absolutely destroy things when you've got Merritt. Josh Kelly, 118, he bounced back. Look, I don't think that ankle injury is anything to be concerned about now. He's over that. He was running really, really well. 118, geez, this bloke gets ripped off, I think. Doesn't get kissed by the champion data people, but I'll still take that. If you compare that to most other players I've got here in the midfield, that's a pretty decent score. So I was wrapped with what I saw from Kelly. One thing that really stood out for me, what I saw in this game, is the fact that Josh Kelly is just the cleanest player in the competition. His skills are just so silky, and that is what makes him such a damaging player. Not the fact that he gets the ball so often. We see someone like an Ollie Wines who gets 40 plus each week. when I say each week, probably an exaggeration there, but we have seen a lot of 40-plus games from Ollie Wines. Can't even get to a 110 type score. So with someone like a Kelly, that is the big difference here. It's the fact that he just uses the ball so well. And that's, just a great thing for SuperCoach. Super damaging. So Raptor brought him in. He's been a terrific selection, a terrific trade-in for me just before the buys, or actually during his off-buy, which was a bit of an interesting strategy at the time, but it's worked out well, I think. Titch, again, for the last month, has not gone below the ton, so he's just getting the job done. These 110, 118 plus scores, that's okay for me. I'm going to take that from Titch. We're not seeing the 70s that we saw from this man, what was it, even 5 to 8 weeks ago. The pattern has now changed, and he's looking like a pretty safe pick. So I think he actually sits 11th in total points for midfielders at the moment. So didn't see that coming. He's really pushed that average up during the last 4 weeks. I've really needed that as well from Titch. So thank you very much, mate. I can now probably advocate this trade in. But at 580k, you've got Kelly there, who I'd probably rate ahead of Titch. But Raptor had both of them at this stage, to be honest. And Sammy Walsh, fantastic, a 138. Didn't watch this match whatsoever, so not sure what happened there. But after he's had a pretty, would you say, subpar month with a couple of low scores thrown in there, this gives us a lot more confidence. I have, sort of put myself out there by saying that I still think he can finish top 8 to 10 from here. And with scores like that, I certainly think that he can. So well done to Sammy. Obviously, didn't have a hard tag. I was expecting Sarong to go to him, or did he? Again, I didn't watch any of this match, so if Sarong did give him a bit of a hard time during stages of the match and he still managed to get a 138, then that's a really, really good sign. If he didn't give him any attention, then that's probably what you expect, around that 120 to 130 range from Sammy Walsh, I think. And Trav Boak, this score really hurt when I traded him in for Brayshaw, who went about a 130 plus, I think. So look, it's not a disaster with a 94, but I have copped a 70 type score from him the first week I traded him in. This has not been a good selection, and I wish I could have this luxury trade back. I really wish that I could. I should have just left Brayshaw there, I think. Cop that extra donut, I think, in round 14, like many other sides did. Only gained about an extra 70 points there. Gained a few more points last week over Boak and Brayshaw, but at the end of the day, this could very much even out by the end of the season. So I do regret this a little bit. Not the worst selection, I don't think, though, at the same time to have it there, mate. Newcomb actually had a really good game, 67. Looked like he had his attack back on the ball. The tackle count went back up. Bramble, though, actually outscored him by 13 points with an 80. But to have him as cover on the bench with a 67, I think his job security is pretty good at this stage. I'll take that each and every week. Fife didn't play. And Saunders is a man that I did bring in this week. What were my trades? I did trade out Lockie Jones from my back line, end up bringing Briggs from the forward line back there. I now have a loop with Jimmy Madden, and I did bring Saunders in for him. So that was the first trade that I did make. And as you know, I had Jarman Impey, and I'll talk about who I traded him to in a minute. Onto the rucks, and you'll be able to see who I traded in the forward line, which was a really nice trade for this week. But Gawn, 100. His ceiling's gone, similar to Oliver. You just can't rely on him to be a vice captain or a captain anymore, which is really disappointing. What's hurting him? Well, Spills actually predicted this a fair while ago, and I reckon it was about 4 to 6 weeks ago. He said to me, and I don't know if this was on the podcast or just on the phone or something, but he said, look, I'm really worried about Gawn's ceiling now. I think Luke Jackson is really going to start to affect him, and I didn't think Jackson would have this type of impact on Gawn. I thought, look, mate, it's not too bad. Don't worry about it. Gawn will still go those 130s each and every week. Jackson, he'll chop out here and there, but Gawn is just far and away the best ruckman in the comp. He'll still deliver us some good scores, but unfortunately that ceiling, it's gone down a lot, and I think a big reason for that is the great form of Luke Jackson. So we'll see what happens with Gawn. Obviously, we just keep on to him. He's going to finish in the top 2 for rucks, I'm pretty sure, from here on out, though Sean Darcy had a really good game. Hickey's been in great form. Rob, he was really disappointing. What happens with the fit Rowan Marshall from here, I'm not too sure. But, we've all got Gawn, I think, or most good teams, I think, have Gawn. Just leave him at this stage. Now, this bloke here, CCJ, one of the worst games you'll see. Fumbly, gave away free kicks. I think he was in the negatives at quarter time. -3, I think, from memory. 5. A score of 5, it was on 8, 7, 6, 5. It's like, damn, this is really, really hurt me in my future plans. I was planning on just keeping him as cover, trading in a ruck loop in my forward line. It was actually going to be Jimmy Madden, which I don't think I'll be able to do anymore. It's just been an absolute disaster. And having this bloke on field instead of a Brady Grundy, like I think it's about 40% of other teams do, that's absolutely killed me this week. So Grundy went a 120 plus. I've lost about 120 points there just on that move. So it's really, really hurt me. He's got to go. He's dead. I reckon that, I don't know if I mentioned in the intro, but surely his calf was okay. Dimmer's just gone. Mate, you're out. We've made a mistake here going with the extra tool. Hasn't worked. We need to change a few things up. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, if I've said that in the intro or not, but a bit dodgy, the Coleman Jones one, but he has to go this week. Zach Smith didn't play, concussion. Damn. I needed him to get to 300k, so he's done his job, but I needed him to do a little bit more given the fact that I had some unexpected carnage last week. Onto the forward line, Dane Zorko, he was my vice-captain. I mentioned the podcast with Spills. I'm probably a week late on this. And I'll tell you what, a 99, I'll take that from what he delivered. A couple of goals. One of them was just a Joe the Goose over the top in the first quarter. I think he was on 2 disposals at halftime. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think it was actually 2 disposals at halftime. And I'm going, what on earth is happening here? And I was watching the game with my best mate, Brent, having a few beers. And look, he said to me, don't put him as your vice captain because I'm going to trade him in this week. I'll leave that story for another time, but Brent, if you're watching, mate, yeah, I will get this story out. My mate is absolutely cursed. The rule for SuperCoach this year is if Brent brings a player in, I'll tell you what, trade him out and certainly do not put them as your captain or vice captain if you end up keeping him. He's just cursed, poor old bloke. So, yeah, we'll leave that story for another day. Deserves a whole video, I think. Just, you wouldn't believe this bloke's luck. But Jack Zeeble, 121. Yep, fantastic. He's such a safe selection down there. We've all got him. You need him, I think, at this stage with, some of the other scores we've seen, some fake premiums like Langford, Shea, Bolton, he's been really down. Dusty Martin, giving us 80s, 90s, just scraping to the hundreds. Yeah, Jack Zeebel's been a fantastic selection. And by starting him, I've obviously really saved myself an important trade there, even possibly 2 trades, I think. So, cannot complain with Zeeble. Absolutely love the selection. Hawley as well, 118. Look, the only thing with this bloke is that he can turn the ball over. You think at times, what's going through your head, Hawley, but he gets so much of it. He can bite off some of those really, really, 50-50 type kicks. Sometimes they hit the target, sometimes they don't. It's a bit of a mixed bag with Hall, but 118, he's really bounced back after his poor score. Again, I have mentioned for the last 2 months, he shouldn't let you down. He did last week, which was a little unfortunate, but again, bounces back to a 118. That almost averages close to 100 over the last 2 weeks now. So, not the end of the world with his 70 because he'll just get so much of the ball. And they love playing that chip game, don't they? North, they just see so much ball down there, and that's what they do. I did watch a little bit of this game, and there were times where they just didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to get out of the fence. They'd chip it to one side, back to the middle, back to the other, and back they go. That's just what they do down there. So the stat padding down there at North Melbourne, particularly in the defensive line, is absolutely unbelievable. That's why I've got to have these 2 blokes as a pairing, I think. And Danger, I did trade Dangerfield in this week for Jarman Impey, and didn't this man deliver? And it was the week that I wanted him to deliver because with some of these other poor scores that I had from some of my premiums, I needed someone to go really, really big. It would have been nice for it to be Dane Zorko as my vice captain, but it's such a good feeling when you trade someone in and they deliver by far and away their highest score of the season. Contested possession was up, as usual. Didn't use it all the best, but he's had a history of doing that, Dangerfield, and still managed to give us elite numbers every season. But I can't praise this man enough during this week. Against Essendon, he didn't have any close sort of attention. I did mention, was it a couple of weeks ago, that he's a little bit rusty. It will take him a couple of weeks just to get the feel of the game back. I thought it may have taken him maybe 1 more week than what it did to get to a score like this. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting a 180 this season from Dangerfield, but I was expecting, those 110 plus type scores from next week onwards, but he's delivered a week early. Fantastic that he did. I highly recommend bringing him into your side. He's still at 533k, which is an absolute bargain for Dangerfield and what he has the potential to produce for the end of the season. So if you are priced out of him, that's really unfortunate. Would I go 2 trades to get up to him? Well, that really does depend on what your other options are. If you can still get, I don't know, I'll talk about the forward options in my stock market video anyway. Dusty, 86, Richmond as a side, same thing I've mentioned with Short. Yeah, they're just on a downward spiral at the moment. This man has been a star of the comp, but this season, it just hasn't been Dusty's season. And after 2 rounds, I can't believe I'm saying that now because he looked like a different unit, but he's just reverted back to the old Dusty ways that we're used to. The scoring patterns have just continued. I should have recognised that, not jumped on him early, but I was a little bit worried that he was owned by about 50% of the competition by that stage. And yeah, a bit of FOMO there. Lesson learned though next year. And I said it last year, the year before, I'll say it again, not starting with Dusty. And if I do, everyone please remind me of what I've said for the last 3 years. So yeah, Dusty, we've all got him though, don't we? So we're all copping this pain. And Cole Langford, this is extremely painful because we're not all copying this one. I think he's owned by about 5% of teams. I knew it was a risky selection. I had to bring someone in, and with the options that I had at hand, yeah, he was pretty much the guy that I had to. Toby Green was the other bloke that I could have looked at, but he only delivered a 57, I think, this week. So both selections haven't turned out overly well. What I'd love to do is turn him into Bailey Dale. I think if I had Dale there instead of Langford, it would be a really, really solid forward line. But unfortunately, I can't do that. Won't have the trades. Oh, he's lost his CBAs. And he's a bit of an almost player. You know, he gave away a couple of free kicks, but he almost kicked a goal. He actually positions himself pretty well, I think, Langford, but just seems to get burnt. Players just almost look at him and decide against it at some stages. So, yeah, he's a nothing pick at this stage, and a pod selection that I, really regret trading in. And that's going to hurt because if you've got, as I said, someone like a Dale there, that's going to, lose me, well, how many points each week? Could be up to 50 points, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I think it's about the 20-point range. Either way, I'm losing out, but it is what it is. I'm stuck with him. Yeah, maybe I could loot Poulter and Langford, but in saying that, Poulter, the last couple of weeks, a 34, a really poor score last week. His price is plummeting, and I was really relying on him to be a solid emergency selection each and every week, swing him between my midfield and the defence. That's why I brought in Saunders, which I thought was a smart move, but all of a sudden, job security may be of slight concern. I still think he got 15 touches, which was nice, but I did watch a little bit of this game. It was really early on. Who was it? I forget the player, but they just monstered Poulter. It was a 50-50 contest, just knocked Poulter right out of the way, just like the kid that he is, to be quite honest. And he's got a slight sort of a frame, so we don't expect him to win that contested ball. He's an outside wing type player, but it just did show that there is a long way to go for lots of these young Collingwood players. So, yes, he hit a rookie wall now. It's a possibility. Does he need a week off? He may. I'm hoping if he does need a week off, it will just be the 1 week and they bring him straight in, because he has been a terrific player for Collingwood and a big part of their future, but a little bit worried going forward. And Jimmy Madden, spoke about him a little bit in the intro, just unexpected, broke a finger apparently. Didn't even read into how he did it. I was just spewing over it. I thought, damn, I'm not even going to look into it. I just know that he's gone for the next couple of weeks. Given the fact that Leicester should be right to come in by that stage, I don't know if he comes into the side. Payne's still in there at this stage, so I really don't know. He could possibly be dead, but what I do have at least is that swing between Briggs and Madden in the defence and in the forward. So, the trades this week were Impey out, Lockie Jones out. I bought Bramble, Saunders in. I was thinking about Bramble, but ended up deciding on bringing Saunders in. That opens up that loop from my mid into the forward line, which I think is really important when you're low on trades. And, Briggs into that forward line. I swung him in as well. Look, this week, what am I doing? Well, I've only got one option. Well, I don't only have one option, but what I'm thinking of doing is out Coleman Jones and out Zach Smith. And you'll know who I'm bringing in. It's a pretty obvious one. I've got to bring in Brodie Grundy. And that leaves me with the option to either bring in Ned Reeves. So I could do that. in the hope that he does have a chance to come back into the side at 123,900. Or the other one is just to go Jacob Edwards from North Melbourne as that loophole. Unfortunately, I can't swing him with anyone, which is frustrating because I did want to keep CCJ. I'd actually thought during the week as well, I may even back out of that move and just leave Zach Smith there because I wasn't sure what was going to happen with CCJ going into the future with Lynch coming back in, Nank coming back in. So yeah, that was the plan actually, to keep Zach Smith and maybe not worry about that loop, just leave him there because I'd already have Poulter that could switch. Look, the other move I've got, if I decide to go a little bit cheaper, is that I can actually, in the one trade, bring in this man, Rowan Marshall. So I would have a completed side, but no Grundy, Langford there. 3 trades though, it certainly is an option. What I would love to do is to be able to do that and trade out CCJ. I'm 5k short, so you wouldn't believe that. I'd be much more tempted to do that and keep the 3 trades up my sleeve, but I think that the obvious move is just to suck it up, use those 2 trades and bring in Brodie Grundy. I think that's the most logical move, but in saying that, I'm worried that, with only 2 trades left, that could really, really hurt me. But that's the move I think that I'll make this week. Once I do that, my team is finally upgraded to a full premium side. When I say full premium, there's a couple of dodgy selections there, but that's what it's going to look like from here on out. So in the back line will be Stewart, Whitfield, Lloyd, May, Ridley, Short. What would I love to do there? Well, I'd love to have probably Laird back there in place of Short and another Uber premium, but if not, I'd love to have Callum Mills there. I think he's the man that you've got to have. That's probably the man that I'm losing, I think, in Mills. In the midfield, well, look, take your pick. Who am I losing here? I think that I've got 1 out of the top 5 scoring mids for overall points. So missing Parrish, missing Bont, missing Lyons, and missing Jack Steele. And at stage of the season, I was looking at bringing each and every one of those blokes in, just couldn't in the end. The one I'm most disappointed about is Tuke Miller because I was all over him before anyone was talking about him, but circumstances just meant that I couldn't bring him in. So super disappointed with that. That's certainly what I'm missing from the midfield. But in saying that, I think that I do have 7 out of the top 12 scorers for overall points. So yeah, it's okay. It's not a disaster. I've got that next tier. So I'm basically filled with tier 2 midfielders, just really lacking those uber primos. In the rucks now, wouldn't change anything, so it's all good there. And in the forward line, I think I mentioned I'd probably like to have Dale instead of Langford, and who knows, basically, yes, Dusty Martin, I think we've all got, so I think that you just probably keep on to Martin. So that's how the team's looking at this stage. Poulter is going to be great swing between Saunders. Unfortunately, I won't have any cover in the rucks. Hopefully Brodie and Big Maxi can stay healthy, just get through to the end of the season. I won't have to worry about it. The great thing now is that I've also got a swing or a loop in my forward line. He'll be a non-playing player, Edwards, but that's just great for the captaincy each week. Just keep it easy, nice and simple. And then I've obviously got that extra loop between Bianco, Fife and Laird. And I've also got the Briggs Madden loop also. So that's why I'm really happy with my bench at this stage, because I do have loops absolutely everywhere, just apart from my ruck. So I've got a mid forward, a defensive forward, and a defensive mid. You can't get much better than that, I think. Ideally, you'd have a bit more cover on the bench for your rucks, or you'd be able to have a swing somewhere. If you've got a Rowan Marshall in your side, that'd be great to pair up with an Edwards. But yeah, I think I'm very happy at this stage. I'd love to change a few things, but it is what it is. So that's how the Rusty Spoons are going to finish the 2021 season. Unless there are injuries, I've got 2 trades up my sleeve. I've got no plans to make any funky sort of upgrades. I could obviously go someone like a Poulter out and then upgrade a Boak to a Bont or a Parrish, one of these guys. No way for me. If maybe I've got a couple of trades left with 2 weeks to go, I will make that move. I certainly, I won't leave 2 trades in the bank for the rest of the season. But yeah, at this stage, I think the smart move is just to keep them for injuries and fingers crossed for no more carnage. So that is the review for this week, guys. Stay tuned for the stock market video and the SuperCoach Swordplay podcast. We have been a little bit late on that one. We have recorded on time, but yeah, there's something up with the account. Because Spills and I upload, sometimes I do it, sometimes he does it. There's this security warning, people on the same different device at the same time. Won't go into it, but hopefully we'll get that up a little bit earlier this week. But apart from that, guys, take care. All the best of luck for this week, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.